All right, guys. My name is Pratik Agarwal. I'm going to be the lead instructor for this bootcamp today. Welcome, everybody. The topic of discussion today is that how do we apply analytics to solve problems in real estate industry? And in the three session workshop bootcamp that we have, you will get to learn how can you analyze real estate data using SQL, one of the very important tool set for any person who's going to the data industry. Then you will also learn about a visualization tool. You'll also learn about how do we use Python to do some machine learning analysis on real estate analytics data. So these are the three things that we'll be doing in the three sessions that you would have in the bootcamp. In today's session, the focus would be that how do we analyze, sorry, I have written it wrong here. How do we analyze real estate data using structured query language, right? What is SQL? SQL is a language which databases speak, right? Just like you and I are speaking English, we understand each other very well because we speak the same common tongue. Hence, if you want to interact with the data repositories where the actual data gets stored, which are created by software systems, which are created by human users, other software systems. So how do you interact with such databases using the SQL, right? So databases are the repositories, just like you have Almira in your house. They house your they house your clothes, your accessories, your stuff, right? Similarly, you have databases in an organization to store the data in a structured fashion. Okay, so that's going to be the main discussion point for today's workshop. By the end of the session today, you will be able to learn some of the fundamental concepts, essential fundamental concepts of SQL, and how do you work with, or how do you do essential, fundamental analysis using SQL on any industry domain data. Specifically today, we'll talk about real estate data. By the end of it, you should be able to write some basic SQL queries. I'm not expecting you to become an expert in just one hour session. However, it will be a good introduction to SQL as a language. You can after the session, you should be able to explore more in the world of SQL. I'm going to give you some more references as well. Okay, in the process, should you have any question, feel free to unmute or feel free to use the chat window to ask your questions. Okay, great. So what do we have in the screen right in front of you? I have something called as data to decision wisdom here. Let me change the color of the pen to, let's say, red. Now, what is the meaning of data to decision wisdom? And anybody who's jumping into the world of data should actually be able to explain this as a concept to almost anybody that you interact with, whether it is your 8th grade sibling or your cousin, or your grandfather who asks you, hey, what is it? Explain what data science is or what analytics is. You should be able to explain using very simple examples. So that's what we will discuss first, and then we'll go to databases, then we'll go to SQL as well. So what is data to decision wisdom? Imagine what is data, right? Imagine you're working in a bank, and let's say this not bank, so let's say you're working in a real estate firm. Imagine you're working with I don't know, Shobha Realtors or Lodha or DLF, any one of the big real estate firms, right? What kind of data would they have with them? Imagine they ran a campaign, advertisement campaign. You see your city is bombarded with all the hoardings given by all the real estate players, right? Imagine they ran such advertisement campaign for 1 week, and they got 100,000 new customer inquiries. Massive ad campaign, and they got 1 lakh new customer inquiry. Now that 100,000 new customer inquiry data has to be stored somewhere, right? And where would that data go, right? And what kind of data do you think that real estate player would have collected on each one of those customers? What do you think? This 100,000 new customer inquiries data, for each customer, what kind of data points do you think that company would have collected? What do you guys think? Anybody? What kind of data point would they have collected? Any idea? Anything? When you, okay, Arumoy is saying salary. Okay, maybe salary. What else? What do you think? Anybody? Existing loan. Okay. Costa is saying age. Perfect. What else? What else? Okay. So now somebody said name. Harsh is saying name, personal information, potential to buy, personal details, area in which they want to purchase home in that area. Okay. Area of the home that they want to brand preference. Okay. Okay. So we all understand that any such campaign would want to collect some basic data about the customer at least, right? Now, when it comes to data, so what is data then? Data is something which is completely raw facts, completely raw. Why do we say raw or unprocessed data? Imagine when you fill up any web form, let's say you clicked on an ad, let's say on Facebook there was or on Instagram there was an ad, you clicked on it, you got excited, it looks like a beautiful house, you clicked on that house ad, and that ad, when you clicked on it, it opened a form. And when you filled up the data in that form, let's say your first name, your last name, your date of birth, your email ID, all those things become the data points that, or the raw facts that get captured in the company's database somewhere, right? So what is raw fact? Completely unadulterated, untransformed, right? Raw. That means it cannot be broken down further. One of the very important definition of raw fact is that it cannot be broken down further. For example, if you talk of date of birth, right? It can't be broken down. If you talk of, so, look at this. We are capturing date of birth, but we are not really capturing age. The reason why we want to capture date of birth rather than age is because age can be calculated if you know somebody's date of birth, right? But if you have age, it might be, let's say, 2 years later, if you open the same data, you'll be confused as to what the age of that person would be now, right? So normally we go a step back and we say instead of capturing something which can be calculated, we should capture on the basis of which it will be calculated. So those are the completely independent raw data points or raw fact that we would want to cover, gather in our database. So date of birth, gender, salary, pin code. Now, instead of capturing region, I would rather capture pin code. Region can be calculated, district can be calculated, city also can be calculated. If you know pin code, you can calculate everything else, right? So an intelligent data gathering form, which should have less number of information or less number of data points that you're collecting from the customer, should actually capture something which can be used to calculate the other things, right? So these become the actual data points to capture. Now, of course, here things like first name, last name, email address, mobile number, those of course would be there as well. And these raw facts, right, would be captured for each one of these 100,000 customers. Do you all agree? Right? Each one of these 100,000 customers. Does make sense, guys? Now, think about this. Imagine, where are we storing this data? So this data is going to be stored in what we call it as database. So database is really nothing but a repository, a place where all the raw facts are captured, right? Imagine you have a wardrobe, right? Now in a wardrobe, imagine this is a wardrobe. My drawing is bad, but I'll still give it a try. Now imagine this is a wardrobe, right? First thing first, you would want to have a wardrobe or a cupboard in your room, right? That is the first thing, right? Because imagine living in a room which has no cupboard, no wardrobe. I mean, of course, everything is going to be scattered all over the place if you start living in a room which doesn't have any wardrobe or any place to store your clothes and your accessories. right? So now imagine this database is really nothing but a wardrobe. Now this wardrobe has, what are these? These are, what are these? These are shelves. Why do we need the shelves now? So you would say that yes, we need the shelves or sections, as somebody said. Why? So that, why do we need these partitions, shelves, sections in our wardrobe? Why? What is the reason? What do you guys think? What would be the reason? Pankaj is saying for separation. That's right, Shantanu. Shantanu is saying to arrange in an ordered fashion. Imagine if there are no shelves, your clothes and accessories would be all over the place, right? And from, if there was no shelves, then your clothes would be all over the place in the wardrobe. And then if you're looking for a yellow pair of socks, it would have been very, very difficult to find that yellow pair of socks if there was no separate drawer just to keep the pair of socks. Isn't it, guys? So we place things at the right place because of these partition, these cells, right, or these sections in the wardrobe. Similarly, in an organization, first thing first, we need a database in order to manage the data that is getting generated during the operation of the business. That's one. Second, we need to design the database intelligently so that it captures and stores all the data in a structured or in an ordered fashion. And that is why we say databases need tables. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, guys? These are tables. There'll be, let's say, one table for customers. There'll be one table for all the orders placed by the customer. Let's say there's one table for employees. And what is the meaning of a table? Imagine this is a table. And these are columns. The columns are nothing but attributes or the fields of the table, right? These date of birth, gender, salary, pin code, first name, last name, these are all nothing but attributes or the fields. Are you all with me so far? Everybody? Everybody with me? Any questions? Sorry with that, I forgot to start the recording. So if in a database, you need tables so that you can organize, segregate the information into different categories. Customers would have its own table, and in each table of customer, each customer would have what all attributes would have: first name, last name, date of birth, email, uh, gender, salary, pin code, right? And those are the attributes. And for, if there are 100,000 customers information, then there will be one row for each customer. So these are called as rows. And those rows contain the actual customer data. So let's say if you have made an inquiry, you filled up the form, all your data will go into one row that will be dedicated to you as a customer or as a potential customer. Does that make sense? So rows are called as a record set or the record simply. Got it? And that is the basic construct of a database. Really nothing special, right? Always think of database as a wardrobe or as a cupboard in your room, right? Your cupboard, first, maybe you would need maybe multiple cupboards. So to run an organization may need actually multiple databases also if required, if the organization is very big, right? If you have only one room, one wardrobe, you are living alone, maybe it's fine. But if you're living with an extended family, then probably everybody would need their own wardrobes, right? So if the organization is very large, they may need multiple databases, right? But the category is very simple. That database may have multiple tables, and each table may have multiple attributes, right? And multiple rows depending upon how much data you're entering into it. Got it, guys? So the smallest logical division of a data is your data points or raw fact, which is in this case, let's say the second column contains the last name, right? So the smallest logical division of data is first name, last name, date of birth, gender, salary, pin code. Is this clear so far, guys? And that is very key. That is very important to understand that how the databases are designed. And they're not just randomly designed. They're designed for a specific purpose. If you're designing this database for this real estate firm, it is designed to capture that, right? Now, imagine for each customer, they also know what is their preference. And let's say similarly, they also have one table dedicated to the properties that they have. Imagine DLF or any large real estate player. They may have a table dedicated to all the properties that they have. And for each property, right, they will have a lot of attributes like number of BHKs, number of bedrooms, number of toilets, number of, whatever amenities offered in that particular property, and so on and so forth, isn't it? The area, the per square rate, and all of that would be part of that particular property table, which would be also part of the same database. Is it making sense? Now, I've also written information. Okay. What is the meaning of information? So you understood, database contains that data. Now, information is processed information, processed data. Meaning, instead of having just date of birth here, remember, we have to find answer. We may require this data to do what? What will we do with the data stored in the database? What do you guys think? Why are we storing the data into the database? Why does an organization need to store the data into a database? What is the answer to that question? For future, not just reference, Shantanu, but for future data analysis, for future decision making. Suppose my question is very simple. I am the chief marketing officer. I want to understand that we spent 1 crore last week in advertisement campaign. We put the billboards all over the city. What result have I received? Was the advertisement campaign effective or not? Right? How would I know that? I would know whether the advertisement campaign was effective or not would depend upon how many new customer leads or inquiries were we able to create. And also, we would also come to know whether that 100,000 is a good number, bad number. We can do analysis of the past data and so on and so forth, right? Let's say I want to find out what kind of customers were we able to target in our last advertisement campaign. That is my business question to answer. So to answer that business question, I would have the data stored in the database. So as an analyst, let's say your chief marketing officer comes to you and says that, hey, you are the marketing analytics professional that we hired by paying a lot of money. Give me the answer that what kind of customers, give me the profile of the customer that we were able to attract in our last advertisement campaign. So you would, as a good data analyst, you would go back to the database and you will query, right? Query meaning you want that information. Now, information, suppose if you're trying to create profile of the customers, you can't just create the profile of the customers on the basis of date of birth, but you'll have to transform date of birth into something. So that transformation is called as information. For example, from date of birth, what would you convert this date of birth to? What would you convert the date of birth to? And I have been saying process. What is the meaning of processing the date of birth to? So that would be age, perfect, right? Similarly, PIN could be converted into region, into landmark, and so on and so forth, right? So that is processed information. Using that age, right? Then the next thing would be to summarize the data. Remember, why we want to summarize the data? So that we can create insights. Insights are the analysis outcome, right? After analyzing or after summarizing the data, what can you conclude, right? What can you conclude? Let's say, just taking a very funny example, let's say in my engineering class, if I remember, I think in my entire engineering department, we had 12 girls across, I think 8 departments or whatever, right? Computer science had like 8 of them. and rest of the 4 departments had like 1 of them each. So if 12 girls and let's say 500 boys, if this is the data, you will very easily say, right, after summarizing it, right, you will easily say that, you know what, there are significantly more number of boys prefer to do engineering or are accepted in engineering colleges than the girls, right? It's very easy to say this, but you're able to say this once you have summarized the data. This is called as summarization. Here also, summarization basically would mean that, hey, can we, on the basis of age, if you're summarizing data, then can we divide the age into different brackets? Let's say young, right? Let's say young family, right? Let's say middle-aged family. Let's say senior family, right? And then if we find the number of customers, remember there were total 100,000 customers. Let's say we figure out and we realize that there are 5,000 customers inquiries here. There are 45,000 customers inquiry here. There are 35,000 customers inquiry here. And there are 15,000 customers inquiry here. And it's very easy to find the percentage divided by 100,000, right? And what is the percentage? So if you notice, you will easily say, once you have this data, once this is summarized, so this is called a summarization, and we will show it. How can we do that in SQL today? Once you have summarized this data like this, right, then you can easily create plain English statements or conclusions or summary statements or insight statements for your chief marketing officer who's waiting for an answer, right? You will say what? Looking at this, try to convert this into the simplest plain English statement that you can think of. Remember, chief marketing officers have very little patience because he's a leader, he's a busy guy. So what actions are you recommending? What actions would you recommend for your chief marketing officer, depending upon what you're seeing in the summary here? Any idea? Quickly, guys. Any suggestion, any ideas? Plain English statements, guys. Very, very simple, plain English statements. Devajyoti is saying business requirement. No, Devajyoti, again, my question is very simple here. My question is, this is the summarized data from all those 100,000 new customers that made inquiry for new flats, right? What can you conclude out of this table? What do you guys think? So Hirsch says 45% of the customers has monthly income of rupees 45,000. No, this is number of customers. Okay. So companies, so the company can concentrate on them as the potential buyers for 2 BHK house. Okay. Well, this is not really the salary. If you want, you could have had a salary as an additional grouping column as well here. What is the average salary of the customers in this age bracket? Then it makes even more sense, right? No, that's fine. Let's put it. Let's put the average salary here to be, let's say, 28,000. Let's put the average salary here to be 49,000 monthly. Let's put the average salary here to be 65,000. And let's put the average salary here to be 75,000. Right? Shantanu made a very good statement. He said, middle-aged customers are more inclined to buy a house, right? 80% of the customers, Arumoy is saying, is young family and middle-aged family. That means people or families which have, or people who have dependents, young or maybe little old, are the people who we should target, because that's where 80% of our customers come from. Senior citizens are not that interested, and young folks are not at all interested in buying house, which may actually be the right hypothesis to make here. Is it making sense? So now if you notice, once we have summarized the data, it becomes significantly easier to make plain inside statement, and that would help you to make actions, right? Maybe the first action would be that we should, for the next campaign, exactly, Dev Jyoti is right. This is where we connect the dots. This is where we're connecting the dots. So the action to take maybe for the next campaign is that we should go ahead and create specific campaign for people who are in this age bracket, right? Maybe it's an anti thought process here as well. You would say that, you know what, young people should be inspired to buy a house. So can we create awareness about buying house among the young people, right? The senior citizens are showing some acceptance, but they have money, but they're still not buying. Maybe it's because they already have houses. So maybe we do not have to focus so much in the senior citizens. Maybe we want to focus on this age group, right? Now here, so here I did the analysis on the basis of age. And then the moment you put salary also here, then it becomes even more interesting. Similarly, the moment you add more data points to these summaries, right? Let's say you add region as well. In which region are we getting more inquiries from? From which age group, right? This is where you are slicing and dicing the data to go deeper into your analysis. Does it make sense, guys? Right? So that's how decisions are arrived from the source data. Remember, the source data was this raw fact. We processed it, right? We converted this into some kind of calculations. And then we use those processed data, processed information to summarize it in order to generate plain English inside statements. Those plain English inside statements will help you to make decisions. And that, in brief, is what data science is. And this is where SQL comes into the picture. SQL and a lot of other reporting tools. Remember, as I said, the data is residing in databases. So you need to interact, or you need to query the data out from the database in order to summarize it. Summary or summarization can happen in reporting tools. Reporting tools like Excel, Power BI that you will learn, Tableau, right? Dev Jyoti is saying that he never bought a flat. Renting a flat and keeping cash handy gives you choices. That just mean no regrets, just counterintuitive point. Dev Jyoti, I agree with you. I kind of prescribed to that thought process until I was 35 years old, Dev Jyoti. But it was, I mean, you know, I don't want to get into that discussion yet, but I strongly recommend people that, you know, if you are in India, if you can, you must try and buy houses. Buy house in a growing area, in a area which is growing, that makes you wealthy. Keeping cash in your hand gives you security. But if you want to become wealthy, then you want to intelligently invest. Anyway, here, reporting tools, Excel, Power BI, Tableau, Python, these are all reporting tools. That's where you do the analysis, summarization, right? But these reporting tools cannot directly interact with the database. So that's when SQL comes into the picture. SQL becomes the link that they need in order to interact with the databases. So SQL is the language which any and all the database management system speaks, right? And you need a central language like SQL so that anybody, any human being, any reporting tool can interact with the databases. Is it making sense, guys? Now, then the question is, which company owns SQL? And the answer to that question is, no company really owns SQL. It's open source. Got it? IBM's two research scientists in late 1960s, early 1970s, definitely Dev Jyoti, created SQL or designed SQL for business users. That's a funny thing. They designed SQL not for computer science users, but for business users who needed access to data all the time. And they designed it and they made it open source so that all the companies which were about to create a lot of databases, right, they could have one central common language, right? So that a person, a business user who's working on, let's say, Oracle database management system or My Sql database management system or SQL Server database management. These are all examples of different popular database management system. They all comply with SQL as a language. So if you know SQL pretty well, you can literally work with any of these database management platforms. Is it making sense? So the database, the famous database management systems are Oracle, PostgreSQL, IBM DB2, MS Access, MS SQL Server, MySQL. The ones which are highlighted in bold are for free. Okay, and they all support SQL. Now, I've spoken about SQL here to work with structured data, tabular data, where the databases have tables in it, right? If you want to work with databases which have unstructured data as well, for example, text, images, files, videos, then you want to use something called as not just SQL, which is no SQL. Just do a research. Go to YouTube, look for some videos on what is the difference between SQL and SQL after today's class. Yeah, then you will understand. One of the famous unstructured databases is MongoDB. So I don't want to go into the details of that today, but yeah, that's a good research point to enhance your knowledge. Mayank, you have a question? No, he's trying to connect with the audio. Okay. Alrighty then. Now, let's get our hands dirty. Let's see how SQL looks like. Let's also see how databases look like. What I've done is I've already installed MySQL database. I'm using one of them. Literally, I could have used any one of them, but I'm using MySQL. It's free to install, and it is fairly large also. I mean, it can support fairly large databases as well. So I'm going to give you, after this class today, I'm going to send you a link with how to install MySQL server locally in your machine. And also in my video, in the recorded video that I'm going to send to you on how to record, I will also tell you how to access database on cloud databases as well, which are for free, right? Then any database, just to give you some quick understanding about, yeah, Shantanu, go ahead. Go ahead, Shantanu. Any database, okay, Shantanu, we can have that discussion towards the end of the class. Any database needs a machine to be installed, right? Just like how you install any software. A database management system is really nothing but a group of software which allows you to create the database, which allows you to create tables in it, which allows you to insert the data into the tables, which allows you to query the data out from the table, right? So a database server will allow you to host the database. But a database server can contain several databases. Right? And each one of these databases can contain multiple what, guys? Tables, that's right. That's right, Baba. And in order to connect to this database server, you need a client software. Just like in order to connect to a website, you need Chrome, Internet Edge. Those are browsers or those are client softwares, right? Where the browsers don't really contain any data. They fetch the data, they pull the data from the web servers, right? The machines where the websites are actually installed and saved. Similarly, the databases are installed in database server machines, right? And you need a client with a software to connect to the database servers. So normally these days we use something called as graphical user interface clients, right? The famous client, although there are quite a few of them, the famous client for connecting with MySQL database server, which is one of the databases by Oracle, is APIs are not needed here per se, but if APIs would be needed if you want to connect the database server program to some other programming language. But here, since we have a client, you can directly connect to the database server. So the famous client for connecting to the database, MySQL database server, is MySQL Workbench, right? But there are quite a few of them. PHP, MyAdmin, there are so many. Just Google and you'll find quite a few of them, right? Now, in order to connect, right, to any website also online, what are the things that you need to connect to a database server or to any web server also? What are the things? So what do we need to connect to a database server which contains multiple databases? What do you guys think? Any idea? What do you need to connect to a website? You need a URL or a host name. or an IP address. Every URL gets converted to IP address, right? Second, you need here, because everything is about data, so it's stored securely. And by the way, a database server can contain multiple databases. So we also need a database name. Generally, you would not be having a complete access to the database server as a user, as an end user. So you would probably be given access to a specific database within the database server. So you'll need a database name. Then you would need login ID. Then you would need password. Right? Now, this is true if you're storing the database in a remote machine, a machine which is stored in the cloud somewhere in the internet, and you're connecting to it through internet, right? Or if you're working in a larger organization as well, there also you'll find most of the databases are stored in the cloud, in the internet somewhere, right? So just like how you connect to a website, you would need all that information to connect to that. Now, what I have done in this for this particular class, and what I'm going to give you as instruction is that how can you install, or how can you install the database management system, MySQL database management system, locally in your laptop or in your desktop, right? And that local machine, on that same local machine, we will also install the client software. So I've already done that. My database software's name is MySQL Server. And how do I know that? If I go to this type here to search, and if I search for services, right, then it opens an app. And in this app, it shows me all the services which are running in my local machine. And if I scroll down to MySQL 8.0, that is the version 8.0. It's 80 written 80, but it's 8.0, which is the latest version going on in the market. This is running. It says it's running. Once I've installed it, then it would be running here. That means my server is running, right? In order to connect to this server from my local client, my local machine, I still need a client software. So what I've done is, as the name of the client software, again in my installation instruction video, you'll understand how to install MySQL Workbench as well. I mean, you can always Google as to how to install MySQL Server and how to install MySQL Workbench. You'll also understand it's not very difficult at all. Then I will look for MySQL Workbench. And when I click on it, when I open it, it will say, welcome to MySQL Workbench. Is the official GUI-based tool or client to connect to the database server MySQL. It allows you to create database objects, which are nothing but tables. It allows you to insert the data. It allows you to design and run SQL queries, the question that you want to ask to the database, right? And very important thing, MySQL Connections. Remember, this is where, when I click on plus sign here, right, it asks me what should be the connection name. It's a one-time step that you do in order to connect to a database server. If you follow my instructions well in the video that I'm going to share with you, then you will see, I mean, the video link will also be given in the YouTube video link, because this class is getting streamed on YouTube. So you'll find in our YouTube channel, in the description, you'll find the link to the, connect, I mean, to see the steps on how to install MySQL Server and the client, right? This connection name can be anything. Let's say local, right? Local database, right? Connection method is TCP/IP, the same method with which we connect to any website. The host name is where the URL will come, either the URL name, or if you have the IP address of the database, then that will come. 127.0.0.1 basically means local installation. This is the default IP address for any server which is installed locally in your machine, 127.0.0.1. And this is the window, this is the port address, right? Don't want to go to the details of networking, but this is the port with which we connect to the database server. It's 3306 by default, that's fine. This is a username. Now, this is where, while installing, you have to decide what should be the username. So I've given a username, and I've already stored the password in this vault, right? By giving the password here. I've already done that. And then this is where I will write the default schema. Default schema meaning the database name. Since we are installing it locally in our machine, we don't even have to give the name of the database. Schema is really nothing but database, another word for database, right? But if you are trying to connect to a cloud database, right, then that cloud database provider would give you the database name as well. So you'll have to put the database name also, right? Why? Because remember, in a server, we can have multiple databases, right? So as a client, I am first making a request to connect to the database server, and within that server, which particular database? This one or this one or this one, right? If you have complete access to the database server, that means local, you can leave it blank. It will give you all the databases which are running in that particular local server, which is what I will do, and then click on OK. So I've done that. Once you have done that, it creates these blocks. These are called as connection files. So next time when you want to connect, you do not have to redo these steps. You can just click on one of the saved connection file. What this will do is that it will open that URL, give the login ID, give the password, and give you access to everything. Do you see this, guys? Right? And on the left hand side, you will see administration. Do not worry about this. Go to schemas. Schemas are nothing but databases. Another word for databases, schematic structure. So databases are equals to schema. Is it making sense, everybody? Now, if you notice, you can see so many schemas in my database server. In my database server. Do you guys understand? You would not, if you install a fresh installation, you would not have so many databases, guys. Is it making sense? Now, the one that I want to go to, is I have already loaded a database called as Mumbai housing, Mumbai underscore housing. You can see, so I've searched for it. And if I click on this drop down, I can see there is tables. Don't worry about views, stored procedure functions. I can go to tables, and there's only one table here. This is not a very big database. It has only 6,500 records or something like that. Now, when I select this table here, it shows me all the columns and the data type. Int meaning integer, number, numeric, area is integer, location, and so on and so forth. Let me show you the Excel version of this table. Look at this Excel version of this table, guys. Here, what do you notice? We have got ID, we got area, we got location, we got number of beds, new resale, gymnasium, is it there or not? Is it a new, is it there or not? So 0, 1, 0 meaning 0 basically would mean that it is not for, it's not new, it's for resale. 1 would mean it is for it's new, right? And it's not for resale. Gymnasium, 1 meaning it has gymnasium, and 0 meaning it doesn't have gym. Lift available, 1. Car parking, is it available or not? Maintenance staff, is it available? 24 security, children play area, clubhouse, intercom, landscape gardens, indoor games, gas connection, jogging track, swimming pool, price. These are all different attributes or the columns, and these are the different property IDs. So each property is given a unique ID, right? And the area is also given, the location is also given. So this is the table that we will analyze, guys. Okay, what I've done is I have brought this table into this particular database. It's actually very easy to do that. Let me show you how it is, right? We will not import it again because it takes a little bit of time, a few minutes to import the data, such big data. So here, if you notice, these are all tabs. These tabs are really nothing but individual files. They're not like Excel. These are individual files where you write the SQL commands. SQL was designed for business users. That means it's very, very, very English friendly. So if somebody who understands English can actually understand SQL pretty well, right? Now, how do we import the data? And how do we, well, actually, how do we first create a database? You establish a connection with a database server, but what if you want to create a database of your own? So what you can do is you can write a statement called as create database. As simple as this, create database, and then the name of the database. Let's say Mumbai housing 2. I can't have the same database as what I have already created, and semicolon is mandatory to write. Okay, and then to run it, you select the entire statement, click on this lightning symbol. When you click on it, look at the output here. If it shows green tick mark, that means that query ran without any problem. I can refresh it here, and when I refresh it, I can see there is something called as Mumbai Housing 2 database. If I click on the drop down, if I click on this drop down, why is there no drop down in the tables? Any idea? Why is there no drop down in the table, guys? Any idea here? Why I'm not seeing any drop down? What do you guys think? Sandeep is saying no data. Okay, how about others? Seems there is no files in the database. What are files? Okay, because Tanima, you're right. Because we have not, Rahul, you're right. Aruma, you're right. Because we have not created any tables. We created a new database, completely new database, but no tables. Got it, guys? Right? So that is the reason why it is showing nothing here. Right? Now, I'm just going to go to one tab where I've already written some of the commands, guys. So here I created, look at this, I created this Mumbai underscore housing. Then remember, my database server contained a lot of databases. So that is why what I wanted to do was that I wanted to make this particular database default. That's right. No tables were there, hence it showed nothing. I created this database, right? And this database, and then I wanted to use this one. Why? Because remember, my database server had multiple databases, right? So I wanted to use a specific one. So for example, here also I can write use Mumbai underscore housing 2. Now, most of the time SQL is not case sensitive in most of the databases, but in some of the databases it is case sensitive. So I would suggest that be case sensitive about it. Okay, write everything is small. You select this and run it. The shortcut to run is Control Enter. When you run it, then it becomes highlighted. That means this has become defaulted. That means any other SQL statements that I write, SQL statements that I write, structured query language statements that I write, would by default be running on this particular database. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah. Let me pull one more thing. So anyway, what I will do is, I don't want to use this one because, by the way, just wanted to show you how to import the data from Excel into MySQL. It's very easy. So I've created this, I've made it default. Click on this tables. There is nothing right now. Right click on it. Right click on it. Look at the options and tell me which option should I select if I want to import the data from Excel. Quickly get which option should I select? So of course, the option to select here will be this second last one, which says create table data import wizard, right? Click on that. Then it'll ask you where is that data. So let's say I browsed it, I went to the file, this that CSV file, right? Comma separated. So what you have done is we have saved a file. Any question, Maya? Maya, any question? Okay, sorry. So I went to file. I'm trying to show you how to convert an Excel file into a CSV file, .csv, comma separated values file, which can be easily read. Remember, Excel is a Microsoft proprietary technology. So not all databases, unless it's a Microsoft database, will not support Excel version. So you have to convert the Excel versions into CSV, comma separated values file, which is this option. You can easily just go and save it as .csv. Is it making sense, everybody? Got it? Once you've saved it as CSV, all the formatting options, everything will go away. Save that file, then come over here as we did, browse, next, and then it'll ask you create the new table in this particular database. Yes. What should be the name of the table? Let's say the name of the table is Mumbai housing table or data set. Right? Click on next. Now the beauty of this import wizard, it previews the data here from Excel and gives you option that, okay, looking at the data here, I think ID is integer, number, numeric. You can select what kind of data the ID field contain. 4 basic data types, number or integer, date for fields like date of birth and time of birth and so forth. Numeric data like salary, right? and text like first name, last name, or any other character or any other field that you want to store, which are non-numeric, non-date, you end up storing it as text. And also one more binary, yes, no. Okay, so it has done that mapping for us. You can verify that mapping, and once you're satisfied, click on next. Then it says, okay, we are ready to import, right? Then click on next, right? And then it'll start importing. It'll take some time, so I'm just going to cancel it. But this is what you would want to do. Is it making sense, guys? Right now, if I refresh it, because I had started the import, so you can see under here there is a drop down, there's a table here as well. These are the columns which are created in that table. We will not use this particular database right now. I am going to go back to the tab where I had some statements here written. If you notice here, create table Mumbai. So this is the query way of doing it. If I was writing a query, I could have done something like this, but we do not have to be bothered too much about this because we have already imported the data, and this statement was automatically run by the system. So we'll not be worried about this one. Now let's go directly to some analysis. Thinking that we already have gotten the data into this, right? How do I read the data? So, by the way, whenever I write in MySQL, whenever I write anything under pair of / asterisk, and then asterisk / is considered as plain English statement and not executed by SQL server, right? Plain English statements. Good to write some notes. So the first question is, how do we read or extract the data from the databases table? How do we do that? So there is a statement here called a select statement. Select from which database? Mumbai _ housing. This is the name of the database. Dot. Then the name of the table. Housing _ _ data set. That's the name of the table. Mumbai _ down housing data set. Select what all fields do we and semicolon. What all fields do we want to select? Let's say I want to select all the fields. So then I would simply write something called as asterisk, which basically means select all the fields. All the fields meaning select all these fields. All these fields. Got it? Now I am ready to run. Select the statement, semicolon. Don't forget the semicolon. Run it. It runs. It gives you 2000 rows only. But if you look at Excel here, it had 6,500 rows or something like that, isn't it? So why is it giving me only 2000? Because here I have limited it to 2000 rows. Do you see this limit? Does it make sense, everybody? Clear, guys? Now, if I want to manually limit the number of records in a large table, I can write limit, let's say 10 records, 10. So it will limit 10 records only. See, it shows 10 records. This is the result. If you want to export this result into Excel, you can click on just export here. Export to an external file. Export it as CSV, as what? Right? Export it as CSV or HTML or whatever file. And you can export the result of any select query. So select statement is the statement which helps you to read. Now let's look at some of the questions here, guys. Okay. Mr. Prakash, let's say a potential buyer, wants to buy a house in Mumbai, right? Now the question is, enlist all the locations where houses in Mumbai are available. Because remember, if I look at this, there are multiple locations in the table, many locations. Do you understand? So I want to see if I write, if I simply write here, select from Mumbai housing data set. Now, if you notice, I did not write the name of the database in front, like how I had done over here. Why did I not have to write it mandatorily? Any suggestion, guys? Why did I not have to write it mandatorily? What is the reason behind it? Any idea? Why? Because I had already made it as default by writing that use statement, right? If I had not made it a default and my database contained many databases, then I had to mandatorily write it. Does make sense, guys? Right? So that's the reason why it is not mandatory for the default databases to write the default database name, because by default, this query will run on this particular database, tables only, right? So I select this. See, I have selected location column, only location column. I select this, I run it, and it shows me location. But the issue here is that there is a lot of repetition, because remember, in one location there could be multiple houses that this real estate company is selling. So I want a distinct list, because remember, Mr. Prakash is interested in finding distinct, different list of areas, right? So I will simply write distinct here. Very, very simple. Select distinct location from Mumbai housing data set. This is the name of the table. Now it gives me 412 rows specifically. That means there are 400 different distinct localities where the flats are available, right? So imagine you going to the builder and asking, hey, where are the flats available? I want to understand which locations, because location is probably one of the most important things that you look for when you're buying a when you're buying a property, right? So then these are the location directory. Then you can select. Now, a couple of more questions that you may have. The second question you may have is calculate the number of houses. Oh, by the way, one important thing here, just to, if you notice here, there is no space in my table name or in my field name. But if there was a space, right, then you have to treat that space differently. Meaning, if there was a space, then you have to put the entire table name or the field name under a pair of ticks. Ticks is symbol just before number 1 in your keyboard. It's an interesting symbol. That means this entire thing should be treated as one table name or one field name. That's the reason why many of the database designers would avoid putting any space in the field names. But if you do have any space, then go ahead and put them under a pair of ticks, not single quotes. Ticks, which is a symbol just before number 1 in your keyboard. Go check, right? Now let's look at the second question that we have. The second question that we have is calculate the number of houses in each location for Mr. Prakash, right? To help him choose a location with the highest number of houses available. So if you look at the output that we are expecting or that we want is, and it's always good to create an ideal output kind of a scenario. The output that I'm looking for is that there should be location and there should be some kind of a count. That is the report that Mr. Prakash is looking for. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah. So that means, what do I do here? I want to somehow group the data by what column. I want to somehow aggregate the data by what column. I want to aggregate or group the data by what column. If you imagine this, right, it's like saying how many students are males and how many students are female in this batch. So the first thing that I would do is that I would tell you that, hey, please stand in groups, 2 groups. These are all females and these are all males. Once you stand in groups, then we will count. Then we will apply a function here to count as to how many people are there in each group. Is it making sense to everybody? Got it? So in SQL, it's very easy to group. So we want to group the data from Mumbai housing data set, group by location column, semicolon, that's the end, and location. That's the first thing that I want to show. See, that's the reason why if you create ideal output, it becomes very easy. location, and then there is a function here, count. Count on which column? Let's say location column. As meaning, suppose if I don't write as, let's say if I don't write as, and I select this statement, I run it, control enter or click on this, it shows you number of properties in each location. Do you understand this, guys? But the column for the count, the second column label is coming as count or location because we have calculated it. So I can also give a dummy column name as total properties, as total properties, as, and I select this, press control enter to run it, and I get total number of properties. But now it is a long list, 412 rows. Remember, there are 412 different property locations. So we have a total number of properties in each location. Do you understand this? So Mr. Prakash may not be very happy about it. He says, no, don't give me this kind of a report. Give me in a descending order by the number of properties. So one very simple thing that I can do here is that we can sort the data. How? Just I need to write order by. Which column do I want to sort the data by? So I want to sort the data by this calculation column, count of location. So I just copy and paste it. Either I can copy and paste the actual column name as it appears here or expression name, or I can just write the sequence number after select statement. So count by second column in DESC in descending order. Interesting. Now do you see this, guys? Right? So did you understand this two? What is the meaning of this two? Count of location, or the second column after the select statement. So I can simply write second. Is it making sense, everybody? Any questions so far? Anybody? Any questions so far? Anything? Yeah. So it's like this. From this table, group the data by location, aggregate the data by location, then show location wise number of properties, count or location, and then sort the data in descending order by count. Right? Now we get this. Now still, how many records are we seeing? How many records are we seeing? 412 records. Now Mr. Pankaj is a little confused. He says, you know what? I don't want to see 400 records. Just give me the top 3 areas where you have the highest number of properties available. Just top 3 areas, or maybe top 5 areas. Or maybe just top 3 areas. That means these 3 areas I want to see. He says that just give me that report. So how can we do that? Just show the first 3 rows in the output of this. Wherever you want to aggregate, group the data. You can Costa or Weber. You can use count. Limit. Remember, we just saw limit here at top. Limit, which limited the number of records of this query, this SQL query. So here also I can write limit at the end. Limit. What should I write? Limit 3. And then I run this statement. It gives me this very simple statement. And the best thing is that once you have written this SQL query, then you can just save it. You can go to File, Save Script As, and then it will be saved locally wherever you are saving it, right? And once you have saved it, right? Next time you just have to open that query again. You don't have to write that query again as well. You can just rerun that query. It'll give you the fresh data. Is it making sense? Look at the execution sequence. First, the table opens. In fact, first the database opens, right? Then the table opens. Then you will group the data by location. All these people will be grouped by location. Here it's grouped by gender, but grouped by location. Then sort the data by, then select location, then count, right? And then sort the data by the second column, which is count or location. And then just limit to number of three records. Now let's look at one more question here, guys. Help Rita to find out the average price of houses in each location to make a better choice as per her budget. In each location, right? So what I do is select from Mumbai housing data set. Now this time I want to group the data by what? This time I want to group the data by what? This time I want to group the data by location. Average price is what we need to find. That's a derivation, derived column, Pankaj. So we'll this time group the data again by location, because she says in each location. Does make sense, guys? So group by what? Location again, and then location wise. Last time we used a count group function. This time we will use AVG for average. AVG of what? Which column, guys? AVG of which column? Yeah, which column? By price column. So price, let's write as average price. And I select this and I run control enter or press or click on the symbol. It runs it, it finds location wise average price. But now again she's confused. She says, you know what, I want to just see the least prices, right? So this time I want to order the data, location which have the least prices. I want to order the data by what column? Least prices. I want to order the data by which column, guys? Least prices. Least average price. Order by AVG, price column. In which order? ASC this time, ascending order, increasing order instead of descending order. And then I run this statement, guys. And I get this. Right? Again, if you want to limit it, limit 5. That least priced 5 location. Now, if you want to further make it interesting, then she says, you know what, how many properties are available in these localities? Oh, only one property. So then you would say, oh no, it's not making sense. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, guys? That's how the analysis would be done. Now let's look at a few more questions quickly. Rahul wants to move from Vasai to a 3 BHK apartment in a new locality, in a new location. Help him choose the best affordable location, which kind of we did, right? Vasai, move from Vasai to a 3 BHK in a new location. So here, look at this. From this data, where number of bedrooms, now this has a space. That's the reason why we have put it on a pair of ticks. It has a space. Ticks is equals to 3, where. This is the first time we're using where, which will filter. Where is like filter. And so simple, you know, just like how we speak in English. And location, not location, not in Vasai, or we can always say not equals to. This is a symbol for not equals to Vasai. The reason why we put Vasai and a pair of double quote, pair of single quotes, because it's a text value. Any text value is put in a pair of double quotes. Vasai is not, location is not equals to Vasai. Group by location, and then AVG of price. Is it making sense, guys? Order by second column ASC. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah. Best price, we have done it. Let me, fitness, right? So he's looking for, now look at this. From Mumbai, gymnasium is going to 1, right? Why? There should be a gymnasium. Jogging track should be there because he's a fitness enthusiast. Swimming pool should be there. So swimming pool is also equals to 1, right? Does make sense, guys? And group by location and average price. and then again order the data by 2 in ascending order. Does make sense, guys? He's a family man with 2 kids. So help him find a property in Gurgaon at the lowest price. Family man. So he is looking. Why 2? Okay, why 2? Why 2? Anybody? Why 2? Why 2? What is the significance of ordering the data by 2? Anybody? Who can answer this question? Who can answer this question? Two meaning the second column after the select statement. So either you can write the second column name here, AVG, let's say price completely, or if you want to save some typing effort, you can just write the column sequence number after the select statement. Not the second table, Pankaj, second column. Second column after the select statement that you mentioned, or you can just write that. Got it? Now, look at this. Raj is a family man with 2 kids. Help him find a new property in Gurgaon. So here we have used location like Goregaon. Okay. Let's not use like here. Just simply write Goregaon. And new resale is 1, and children play is 1 because family man. Order by 3. Right? So all the properties listed there. There is no summary this time, no grouping, because we are listing all the prices. Compare the price of the house in Andheri for Sonia, who is buying a house for grandparents. So a lift available is 1, 24 security is 1, and then order by price. Okay. Cheapest house. So don't worry about that particular query. Anyway, so if you notice here, I'm going to give you all the scripts that are further there. But if you notice here, guys, you will find what? You'll find that doing or writing some basic SQL queries is not difficult at all on the database. Does make sense, everybody? Yeah. And it was not difficult to create a database. It was not difficult to import the data from an Excel file. We just had to right click over here. Sorry, on the tables, we just had to right click over here and import the data wizard, right? So just to quickly summarize, guys, these are the things that we did today. We created a database, right? We imported. Why did we use here to make it default? Right. It seems a very basic knowledge, Pankaj, definitely. Now, what is the next thing that you would do once you know a little bit of fundamentals of SQL? The next thing is to start exploring, guys. I've got a lot of videos here on our YouTube, on Ivy Pro School YouTube channel. Feel free to go ahead and explore further, right? The purpose of this today's workshop was that, you know what, you can apply SQL even to something as business, to a business like real estate as well, to do fundamental SQL, fundamental data analysis, right? Now, but SQL is like a sea, right? You will end up learning so many things. There are so many things to learn in SQL. This we did to, okay, this is what is possible in SQL, but there are so many things that you can do. Here we work with a single table. Remember, a database can have so many different tables, right? You can have thousands of tables in one database. So how do you work with multiple tables, right? And how do you do slicing and dicing, complex slicing and dicing using SQL is what you end up learning further if you dig further in SQL. So look for, or maybe just go to Ivy Pro School's YouTube channel and you'll find a lot of videos for even intermediate and advanced level of SQL. Anyway, just to quickly summarize, guys, created a database. Then we made the database as default. Then we imported the data, right click and we imported data. Then we started doing some fundamental analysis where we basically extracted or read the data out from the database, right? So those are the things that we did today. Tomorrow, you will learn visualization using on visualization. That means here we only extracted the data, but we did not visualize in charts and so forth. So tomorrow and day after, you will learn visualization tomorrow, and day after you'll also learn how can you use machine learning algorithm on real estate data to make even complex future predictions, right? So that's going to be coming your way, guys. Please do not forget to like Ivy's YouTube channel. You'll also get the link to this bootcamp workshop session in Ivy's YouTube channel link as well. Please do not forget to like it, and you'll also find very interesting free tutorials on these topics there. Which visualization tool would you be using? You'll be using Power BI. Harsh. Yeah, I'm going to give you guys my email ID. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you with any other queries that you have. Also, if you search my name Pratik Ivy on Google, the first link that you will get would be my LinkedIn profile. I'll be more than happy to get connected with you on LinkedIn. And okay, sorry, my bad. It is Tableau, not Power BI tomorrow. It's Tableau. Tableau, Pankaj. You're right. It's Tableau. My bad. In last bootcamp we did Power BI. It's tomorrow's Tableau. So anyway, guys, this is my LinkedIn profile and this is my Twitter profile. I'll be more than happy to get connected with you on these two social media platforms, because that's where I remain active at. Okay, guys, it was nice having you guys. I'm so sorry I took a few minutes extra from your time today, but thanks for all the great, interesting questions, guys. Harsh, thank you. And you guys will have a good time tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Have a good one. Take care, everybody.